Hi, timekeepers. Thanks for stopping through the My Reader Minutes. For all that are new here, welcome. To all who have joined me on my journey, thank you and welcome to the Timekeeper crew. Okay, let's get started. We're going to talk about Real Housewives of Potomac. I'm going to start after the sneak peek because I did a recap on the sneak peek, the little 6 minute footage that they gave us during the week. And basically, it picked up where it left off with them just going at Stacey and just being really cruel to her. This is the whole time when they were calling Chris up, Chris Samuels, that is, to find out if she ran back and told him the stuff that Monique was sharing as far as her healing journey of being involved with him and the things that she had to go through to get to where she is today. And, they made it seem like let me turn this off. Um, Monique basically said that he wasn't a good guy. The Chris Samuel she got wasn't a good guy. He used her. He was always like once he got what he needed, he would go back to being the guy that he was, which was trash. Anyway, supposedly Stacey went back and told him all the stuff that she shared. At least that's what they're saying. Kiana came over making a fuss about how she was on the phone with Cookie, and Cookie explained to her that, Chris Samuels had just chimed in or just cut into the phone call and let her know that this is what was happening and blah, 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 blah. First, I want to say a couple of things, and then I'm going to get into what I want to recap. Excuse me. Like I said in the review, Giselle is behind all of this. You can't tell me that she's not. She's behind the girls going after Stacey. She does her poking, but she's recruited Kiana. She's recruited, I think, maybe Tia now, because Tia has an issue with her. And, of course, by association, Angel, as well as, her little sidekick, Ashley. And they're all going in on Stacey. And I don't know what the whole thing is. Is it because she lied about TJ? Because I don't know what else she would have lied about. Oh, and the fact that she didn't come clean about the business that she was about to start that resembled Wendy's. And she lied. Okay. But Giselle has lied too. Giselle has lied. Remember about Jamal bringing him back, acting like they were more than what they were. Monique brought the binder on her and shared that. Like, what is that? Come on. She did that. Anyway, long story short, Sharice called him up. He said he didn't know what they were talking about. Then after that, Sharice shared the story, which I did not discuss in my last video regarding the sneak preview. And she had her little 2 cents to say about Stacey. And supposedly, I guess her and Stacey had gone out. They had met these 2 guys. Both of them happened to be married, or one of them happened to be married, or the one that Stacey liked happened to be married, but he had gone off to the bathroom. And I guess, and she called her a trick, and she said, in this trick, was that necessary? But anyway, she said something about Stacey saying, I guess by her addressing the fact that he was married, she said, Stacey said, well, what does that have to do with me? I don't know why I don't know why any of this is 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 relevant, only because Stacey is back with her baby daddy. He's not her husband, they divorced, but she's back with her baby daddy. And she's trying to bring that back to fruition. So I don't understand what the problem is. Also, did Giselle forget she dated Sherman? Y'all remember Sherman, right? The bald head guy that Monique ran off because she invited his wife onto the show. Her and Karen invited the wife onto the show, who Giselle knew. She knew that lady. I'm just saying. She was going with her ex.
Did you invite Shirley's ex-husband?
Yes, I do. They're grown women. I see nothing wrong with that.
I've just never seen her before, so I was a little surprised as to...
She's gorgeous, isn't she?
She's very pretty.
Very intelligent.
Karen, you know damn well, girl, that she's not going to appreciate seeing her here. Especially when
I told her.
She told you that?
Absolutely. Oh, why not? Listen, they both are my friends. Okay, I've known her longer than I know Giselle. I don't care whether she's mad or not.
This is clear proof that there is no friendship there.
Right.
Because if Karen actually cared about Giselle, she wouldn't bring Kendall around to ruffle Giselle's feathers.
How are you? Good to see you again. Good to see you. Do you know who Miss Karen is? Okay.
She was going with her ex-husband. Giselle knew her. They have footage of her talking to Monique, I think it was. It was either Monique or Ashley about Giselle knowing her. So I'm not understanding people's memories are short. The sneak peek left off. And basically it showed Stacey going over to Giselle and wishing her, congratulations on your success, on your milestone moment, and it's a really nice event, and I wish you the best or something, whatever, all her pleasantries. And Giselle says thank you. And so I guess Stacey basically says she's leaving. Well, as she leaves, Jazzy runs to her before she gets on the elevator and says, I haven't seen you since the wedding. And Stacey's like, well, gotta read the room. They don't want me here. And she's like, what? As she's talking to Jazzy, Wendy steps up and says, where are you going? She says, I'm leaving, and basically she's not feeling the vibe, y'all. And don't blame her. She's out of there because this is a mess. As Wendy steps up, here comes Giselle. Well, if you're leaving, you're leaving. You're leaving, right? And so Stacey says, I already pushed the button. She said, okay, I'm just going to push it again. So Jazzy looks at Giselle and says, are you mad at Stacey too? And Giselle basically makes up something about, well, based on what I've heard about her, I need to marinate on it. No, Giselle, okay, is behind this crap. Giselle is behind it. And she's, like I said, recruited her people and she's behind it. Trust and believe. And so Stacey leaves, just like she's behind the whole Wendy thing. Even though she's trying to act like she's not behind the Wendy thing, she's recruited Kiana and I guess by association, Angel as well to go after Wendy. Because the moment that she was trying to produce at her event, and I know I keep bouncing back and forth, but I have to get this out because I want it to be known that I said it as well. She goes up to Wendy and says, Angel has smoke for you. And she has to come at her like that in a joking manner. So she doesn't look like she's a part of the shenanigans, even though she is the puppeteer. Just wanted to say that. Anyway, so Stacey leaves. And then after that, Giselle goes back over to the bar. She's standing with Ashley and Kiana, and they're taking shots as if they did something. And they were like, look at her, she's running. Talking about Stacey. Again, Giselle is the ringleader. I want y'all to keep that in mind throughout this whole episode. She is the ringleader. Anywho, so yeah, so they're, Wendy looks at Eddie, says, all right, it's time to go. She takes her shot. She said, let's go, honey. And then, so she's there. They're celebrating her 10 million uploads for Reasonably Shady podcast. So the next segment is Stacey, and you see her with her daughter Arabella, and they are preparing to make a pizza. Actually, they have actually a pizza grill outside on their deck, and they're putting together the pizza. And Ta Timo is there, and he's helping, put the pizza together, even though he doesn't know what to call the utensils. He's calling it a shovel. I guess the thing to slide the pizza into the grill, whatever. He's like, "Where's the shovel?" She's like, "The shovel?" I don't know what it's called either. The shovel sounds good to me. And so you see them sitting around, and Stacy basically, they're talking to Arabella about her race that she was in. I think she's takes swimming, so I think there was a swimming race or something that she was saying that she was missed it by a second or something like that. It was really close. And then you hear Stacy talking about, "I'm glad I have people that love me." She said, because after that fiasco at the Reasonable Shady event, she was like, she needed to come home to that. And she was happy. And you could see that she was happy in her element. She's got her family together. They're sitting together. And Arabella's like, "This is us forever." And Stacy says, "This is what you want forever?" She was like, "Yeah." She said, "But I'm okay if I have a babysitter." As if to say she knows she wants them two to get back together now. Stacy says, "We're not going to try to confuse her. We've already told her we got in a divorce, so we're not going to say now we're back together. We're going to just, play it by ear and see how things go." So that was a cute little scene, and I'm glad that worked out for her. The next scene is Ashley and Sheila. Sheila comes over to the house, and I don't know which one meets her at the door. I don't know if it's Dean or Dylan. I don't know, but um he's like, "Keyboard," and he go over to the keyboard, and then they're having a moment at the keyboard, and they're singing Ashley's song, "Healing and a Thriving," or "Thriving and a Healing," or whatever it is anyway. So they go out on, I guess, Ashley's deck. I think her mom asked her about Josh, "How's that going?" And she said evidently her Uncle Lump had come over, and Uncle Lump told her that she needs to let Josh go because he's younger than her, and he made some good points about the fact that she doesn't need any more children. If she does get married again, it'll be a plus, but she doesn't want any more children. And Josh hasn't done any of that. She hasn't gotten any children, hasn't married, and she need not to deal with him. So, but then moves on to talk about her and her mom working so much and being with, I guess it's her sister's dad. And I don't know, she's been with this man for over 20 some years. I guess he's never really worked, or he's never really contributed to the household bills. And her mother is just working, working, working. So she tells her, "Well, I like to work." She was like, "Yeah, Ma, but I want you to work because you want to, not because you have to." And basically, whoever this guy is, she's like, obviously, Uncle Lump talked to her again and saying evidently this is her life. She might be happy with what she's got. Let her live her life. But Ashley was basically letting her know that, "Mom, I need you to take care of yourself." She said, "I don't want you to work yourself. I don't want you to stress yourself out because you're all I have." She said, "You're like my heart outside of my chest." She said, "It's my kids and then it's you. And I just don't want anything to happen to you." So basically, but then they had like these flashbacks of her talking to Michael about how her mom needs to get rid of this dude. So this dude has been in the picture for I don't know how long, because I think Michael was paying the mortgage initially, and he said he wasn't paying it no more while this man laid on his butt. So the mom had to go out and get a job and pay everything, and has had no help. So the next segment is well, they go between Jazzy's house and Angel's house. And they're all getting together just pretty much to talk about the same scenario. So um Angel is got Kiana, Tia, Ashley, and Giselle. And Jazzy has invited Wendy and Stacey to her house. Now, her new husband, Jazzy's husband, is cooking food for them. And she has it set up really, really nice. Um, and she knew, I think she said Stacey was a pescatarian or something like that. Anyway, she doesn't eat meat. So they had some shrimp and stuff there for her. And then on the other household, looked like the same setup, shrimp and whatever. They had cocktails and she had champagne and all kinds of beverages for Giselle and those ladies. Anyway, they all sit around and they're talking about Stacey. Like, why is Stacey so heavily driven this season? Like, is this everybody's storyline? Is Stacey everybody's storyline? If it ain't for Wendy taking up for her, because that's her storyline, because I don't know what else her storyline is either. Um, at least not yet. um, Ashley don't have a storyline. Okay. Neither does Giselle. Okay. The newbies are just newbies and they're trying to get to know everybody. So they don't really have a storyline either. But Stacey has been everybody's storyline and they picked up on a couple of lies that she told and they're running with it. Like this can't be everybody's storyline. Anyway, they talk about, I guess, what happened at the event. And, you know, Ashley basically says that she's going to invite Monique and sit down and have a talk with her. And she asked Kiana to come along so they could talk to Monique about it to try to get to the bottom of it and see what she has to say about the whole thing, about whatever went back to Chris. If anything went back to Chris, I don't know. And in the other household, in Jazzy's household, Wendy asked Stacey, was she open to talking to Monique and just talking to her about the whole situation, about what went down and how things went down. And in it, they said, if Monique is up to it, would you be open to that? And Stacey was like, yes, I'd like that. Only with these conditions. She doesn't want Ashley around and she doesn't want Kierna around. She wants just to talk to Wendy and Monique. That's it. And then they have like some flashbacks of how Kierna kind of like antagonizes her. And she's like, because she doesn't feel comfortable around Kierna. She doesn't feel safe. And then they just see her ragging on. They show these little back flashes of Kierna ragging on Stacey. The first one when she said about how she was at the reunion trying to cry and she couldn't even get a tear out of that beady eye. Then they were on I think the party bus and she was saying something about stay away from me, Stacey, and da da da. She said, I got my QVC voice on. It's like she's just being a mean girl at the 10th power and it's falling flat because it's not even a good mean girl. It's like she's not even playing a good mean girl. It's like you're just being a bully at this point. Too old for that, right? So I wanted to share this picture though, because Ashley, bravo, girl. The check has cleared. Hello? This is the best confessional look I have seen Ashley in ever. She's doing the damn thing. The check is cleared. Michael's taking care of that girl and them babies, and she better make it work for the next, I don't know how many more years she got, but she better come up with something because GNA ain't doing it. Hello? So the next segment is Kiana talking to her mom and her brother. She said her brother and her were Irish twins. So I don't know how to take that. Is that you're born in the same year? Or is it that you're born on the same day, same year by two different mothers? I guess it could be both, right? I don't know. But anyway, he's handsome. I like him. Anyway, they're sitting there and she's discussing with her mother about how Greg has asked her to move back into the house. And her mom's like, whoa, wait. And then she said, Greg has offered to buy her condo for her. And she's like, wait a minute, hold up. She said, you moved out for a purpose. She says, where's the ring and where's the commitment? She said, are you trying to say the condo comes before the ring? And she's like, well, no. She said, well, we moved out for a purpose, honey. This is her mom talking to her. We moved out for a purpose. And Kiana's like, I moved out because I wasn't happy in my relationship at the time. So it sounds like, and I don't know, that Greg is just dangling stuff. Like, I'll pay for this for you, I'll pay for this. But I don't think he wants to be married. I think the man just got a divorce. Is he divorced yet? I think he just got a divorce. And usually people that just get divorces don't want to rush back into another one. So she might have to wait a few years before he's ready to even make that move. And then she probably wants children. He's got kids that he's still probably paying for. So I don't know. Anyway, the mom's not having it. And so the brother said, what, you don't like Greg? And she must have gave her a face. And Karen said, Mom, you like Greg. And then she said, she's fronting. She like Greg. And she said, well, what you want me, like him or love him? She was like, I'll take like for right now. So that was the end of that. So the next segment was Wendy's house. And before I start talking about this, I just want to say that all of the things that happen on the Wendy segments hit just a little bit different now because of everything that's going on in the background. It just hits a little different. But she calls over her sister and her mom to meet and talk. And her sister gets there first, Ivy, I think her name is. And they're talking, they're sitting on the patio or deck, and she's saying that, she brings up their dad, and she has some type of issues with it, or she feels some type of way that her dad is not in her life. Now, she had brought up in a last episode that they all have a group chat, so I guess she's still in contact with her dad. But supposedly it was her uncle's birthday, and her dad came on the group chat and say, wish so and so a happy birthday. However, the uncle's birthday must be days after or days before, or must be days after Wendy's. But he didn't come to the group chat saying anything about everybody saying happy birthday to Wendy. So little things that were getting to her about how her dad's really not interactive with her life. And she said, I feel some way about it because he doesn't want me. Now, I don't know. I can't put a time frame on that only because I can relate a little bit. I wasn't really close with my dad, even though for the most part of my life, my dad wasn't in my life. I knew who he was. And if I had to reach out to him, I think I could find him or track him down because that was before cell phones and things like that. But later in his years, though, before he passed, we had got closer. Not as close as I probably would have wanted it to be, but we did get close, before he passed away. Closer, I'll just say that, not close. But anyway, but did he always, and then and then I think her father said he wished he could have been there for her. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe they all say that because my dad said the same thing. For me and my sister, actually. And but anyway, to make a long story short, she said they all had gone to Nigeria. And even her sister, her and her family had gone to Nigeria. But the father, evidently, whatever, couldn't make it because had fallen ill. And she just felt some way about it. And the sister's like, he's just got to the point where he's used to not having us in his life. Her sister's like over it. Like, whatever. It is what it is. And I guess because they're all in the group chat, it's not like you don't hear from them. You do. It's just that, I don't know, Wendy wanted to share, I guess, her success with her dad. So then the mom pops up. And I don't know, she must have came around the back or something. Anyway, she didn't come through the house, clearly. And she's getting the tail end of the conversation. And her thing is like, look, your dad could have 200 children, but he only has one Wendy. And if he doesn't want, she said, look at me. She said, I'm the one enjoying your money. You take care of me. Look at me. Look at my bag. Look at this. And I'm telling you, the way her mom was going on about how she's being taken care of hit so much different. She said, I'm enjoying your money. Like, bring it in, Wendy's mom. Bring it in, Wendy's mom. Bring it in. Pump your brakes. So she said, look at me, look at me, look at my bag. Look at you take care of me. Da, da. And then they go to a flashback of her telling Wendy that she was late with her allowance. Like, all of this hits different. All of it hits different. Anywho, so then Wendy invites them in the house and says, well, let me show you how I'm enjoying my money. And then she shows them what they're renovating and things like that. And then they go into this one part where they're hanging up a chandelier. And the chandelier, based on, I guess they have high vaulted ceilings. The chandelier that Wendy picked looked so small. It was like, is that what I picked? And the woman said, yeah. And so her mother was like, get two of them. You need something, more, what she said, more busy or something like that. And she said, well, if it's in the budget. And she goes, oh, Wendy's got the budget. Wendy's got the budget. I'm thinking to myself, Ma, pump your brakes. I'm telling you, that whole scene hit different. And I took a picture of the back porch just so I could see what they were talking about. Because when they did their explanation to the police about somebody breaking in, of course, I'm like all over it. Like, I took a snapshot. Let me see. Where could they have gone in at? From the deck? You need a ladder. Ain't nobody scaling no roof. So it don't look good, Wendy. But anyway, we're not going to talk about that right now. We'll talk about that later when it comes up in the courts. All right, next is the dinner with Monique. Ashley has made reservations for 5. She shows up and then Kiana shows up second. She speaks to Kiana, basically letting her know that Kiana asked her, how do you think Monique's going to react? And she says, I don't know. I don't know if Monique's going to like call her out or, or go along with it. I don't know what she's going to do. She said, well, but we'll see what happens. And Monique says, I don't know what I'm about to run into. She said, but I am not the old Monique. And she keeps saying that to us, like, we're not going to see another brawl, I guess, right? She says she's more calming and everything. She says, but, I'll see what these ladies have to say. And then they talk about, what had happened and how they said Sharice had called Chris, I'm going to call him Sam, how at the event, at Giselle's event, how Sharice had called Chris to find out what Stacey had said. And she was like, Sharice? She don't care for Sharice either. She's got all these people that are in the mix that have brought this story back. And she says, I can't tell what is true. She said, because at any point, anybody could have switched everything around. She said, I don't know. Stacey could have called him. And then she said, his messy self, talking about Chris himself, could have, in talking to Cookie, could have switched that stuff all around. And then Cookie, who don't like her, could have made it, put some more yeast on it and told Kiera, who came back with the raw, who don't like Stacey, and delivered it the way she did. Don't sound like it's got, yeah, no. Anyway, and then they flash back to the point in the episode where she was sharing about her healing journey and all that stuff. So Wendy shows up and says her pleasantries to everyone. And before Stacey gets there, she lets the girls know that Stacey's coming, but she only wants to speak to me and you, talking to Monique. However, she doesn't want to be at the table and talk to Kiana and Ashley because she said, Kiana, she doesn't feel safe around you. Well, why did she say that? Because then Kiana was like, I don't care about that fake fraud B, blah, 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 and went off. Why do you have such vitriol for Stacey? What did she do to you, Kiana? If anything, she should have that vitriol for you, because every time you come in her space, you're attacking her about something. I just, I don't get Kiana. I feel like she is playing that role. She was giving her marching orders. Her and Ashley were giving her marching orders by Giselle, and they're carrying it out. That's the only thing I can think of. She's playing a role too hard to divest. Like, get out of here. So next thing, um, Stacey arrives. She's sitting at the table, and Wendy goes over that she did discuss with the group how who she didn't want to be there just to talk. And then I think Stacey reiterates that I only want to talk to you and Wendy, talking to Monique. Kiana excuses herself and she goes over to the bar. However, Ashley never moves. She stays right there because, somebody's got to be able to carry something back to Giselle to tell her what was talked about. So she stays at the table. I'm assuming that's why she stayed, so she can carry her bones back to Giselle. And then, so Stacey basically says, so I think Monique asked her, she said, so you dated Chris? And she said, I never dated Chris. And then you see Ashley like prim her mouth up like, and she said, I never dated him. And then they flash back to a scene where she said, Chris is a nice guy. She said, we hung out. And maybe she didn't think about that as being a date, but I don't know. She just said we hung out. She didn't make much of it. She said, Chris called her, and she said when he saw the Potomac cover of her and her daughter Arabella, and all he said was beautiful. And she shows a picture of it. And she said she never responded. So she said he comes back again and says, well, the polite thing to do is say thank you. And she said she never responded again. So Monique says, so he's chasing you or he's stalking you. She doesn't really respond to that, or they cut it out. I don't know what she says, but you could tell it was cut because she didn't answer it. And she said, I have not spoken to him. And she said, this was as of June 1st. And she said, oh, that was before I even met you. And she said, yeah. So, Monique goes to say, basically says, I've never called Chris. She said, I don't know who went back and told him anything. And so Wendy says, well, I can honestly say, based on what we're hearing today, is nobody at this table. So Ashley's like, well, who could have gone back and said anything to Chris that would have been connected to him or whatever? And so in Wendy's confessional, she was like, let me put on my detective wig. That hit different too, because I wanted to say, was that the wig you had on in your mugshot? I'm sorry, I digress. But she said, let me put on my detective wig. She said, number one suspect could have been Kiana, because Kiana talking to Cookie could have come back with anything, knowing that Cookie don't like Monique, could have switched stuff around or whatever. And based on what Monique said about Chris, that he's messy too. And then she said number two could have been Angel. She said because Angel could have went back and told Bobby. Bobby could have mentioned something to Chris. I don't know about that one, but it's a leg to Chris, right? And then she said, then third you have Giselle, who has been really, really close to Cookie since the Grand Dame has not been there. So And she says she's gotten really close to Cookie since she's been gone. And then she said, but last but not least, we don't want to rule out Stacey because she said she has lied in the past and she has lied in the present. And more than likely, she's going to lie in the future. And this is all coming from Wendy with the mugshot, which again hits different based on what's going on in her life today. So basically, it goes off like this. Monique is sitting there talking to Stacey and saying, look, she was like, I know how Chris is. He's messy and he's just pulling you into the mess. She said, I didn't get divorced for no reason. She said, just like he pulled you in, you could have said, you might, whatever you might have said to him, he could have just, spun it into something else when he talked to Cookie and then went to Cookie to. She said, I know. She said, just be careful. And so Monique basically says, well, if she's lying, she got to keep up her lie. She said, y'all get y'all popcorn. But we'll see how it pans out. And that was it. So what y'all think? This episode, like I said, is so Stacey heavy. And I guess nobody has a storyline. And Stacey is everybody's storyline. Now that Wendy has a storyline and you see they show some previews of what's to come. They show Andy talking to Karen. I don't know why I couldn't remember her name. So they show Andy talking to Karen. Then they show Eddie talking to Wendy. And he said, we done been through some stuff, but this is totally different. And she said, how do you think this is going to affect our marriage? And it goes off. Y'all leave your comments down below. Tell me what you think about this episode. Tell me what you think about the whole Stacey being everybody's storyline, because that's what I feel. Stacey's everybody's storyline. And so Stacey will probably have a flute next year because they need her. Okay? Because Wendy, well, I don't know. They might be all on Wendy's thing now next year. Just saying. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, y'all, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell me what you think. And everybody be blessed. Peace.